Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Morgan and I'm Council's Chief Executive Officer. I extend a warm welcome to the gallery here at the Dancocks room in Nathalia and thank those joining us via live stream for this afternoon's scheduled meeting of Council. Consistent with section 13.3 of the governance rules, Council officers have been authorised to record the public session of this meeting using appropriate recording devices. I now turn to the Chair Administrator for the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Could I please ask everybody to rise whilst I read the prayer and acknowledgement of traditional owners. Almighty God, we humbly ask you to guide our deliberations for the welfare and benefit of the Moira Shire and its people whom we serve. Moira Shire Council acknowledges the Yorta Yorta Nation as the traditional owners of this land. We recognise the deep spiritual connection to land, waterways and community of the 8 clan groups of the Yorta Yorta Nation. And we pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Thank you and please be seated. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined our scheduled meeting here this evening of the Moira Shire Council being held in the Dancocks room in Nathalia. We extend a warm welcome to those members of the gallery who have joined us in person, and we also extend a very warm welcome to those who are joining us online via our streaming service. Item 4 on this evening's agenda is apologies and leave of absence. Are there any apologies or leave of absence to be sought tonight? If not, we'll take it there are no requests for leave of absence. Item 5 is disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any matters on tonight's agenda to which members of this meeting have a conflict of interest to be declared?
Chair, I'll declare a conflict in item 8.7, which is in relation to the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any other matters of conflict of interest tonight? If not, thank you. Item 6 on the agenda this evening is confirmation of minutes of our previous meeting held on the 28th of January 2026. Is there a mover for this item?
Yes, Chair, I'll move that the minutes of the scheduled council meeting held on Wednesday, the 28th of January 2026, as presented, be adopted.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? And the motion is carried. We'll now move to item 7 on tonight's agenda, and that is address from the administrators. Council's CEO, Matthew Morgan, and I had the pleasure of representing Moira at a governor's reception hosted jointly by the governors of Victoria and New South Wales at Corowa on Saturday the 14th of February. This joint reception was held to acknowledge and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Australian Honours System. The event was attended by many local recipients of Honours Awards as well as civic leaders from both sides of the border, and it provided a wonderful opportunity for the governors to reflect on the significant contribution made to our local communities by these award recipients. Administrator Benedica and our CEO Matthew Morgan and I had the pleasure of attending the launch of the new Yarrawonga Mawala tourism brand, hosted by Yarrawonga Mawala Business and Tourism Incorporated at the Seabull Yarrawonga last Wednesday. The Yarrawonga Mawala Tourism and Business Incorporated have committed the past several months to undertaking a collaborative approach to understand and develop a new tourism brand for the Twin Towns. With the generous financial support of the Yarrawonga Holiday Park, a new brand has now been developed to focus on the area's strengths and the range of visitor experiences. And we extend our congratulations to the board of the YMTB for this wonderful initiative, and we do look forward to the implementation of the new Yarrawonga Mawala brand. The Murray Region Group of Councils has been a strong advocate in opposing the Commonwealth Government's open market buyback of water entitlements, given the serious detrimental impact on our local communities. Representing 6 Murray River councils from Mildura to Moira, the Murray Region Group of Councils is now focusing on the review of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, which is currently underway. The review of the Basin Plan is an opportunity to influence the way water in the Murray-Darling system is managed in the future. The Murray Region Group of Councils met in Melbourne last Thursday, and they met with a range of stakeholders interested in the Basin Plan review, including the Victorian State Government, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, and the Goulburn Murray Irrigation District Water Leadership Group. Council CEO and I also attended an online briefing hosted by the MDBA on the 13th of February to provide background and context to the plan review discussion paper which the association has recently released. These meetings have provided a great opportunity for the Murray Region Group of Councils and Moira to shape and focus our submissions to the Basin Review, which will be submitted by the 1st of May. And we do look forward to being an active participant in the Basin Plan Review, given its importance to this region. An inaugural meeting of the Yarrawonga Fire Recovery Coordination Committee was also held on the 18th of February. And the Coordination Committee's objective is to bring together all the agencies and some community representatives with an interest in recovery activities associated with the Yarrawonga fire that occurred on the 9th of January. The committee will seek to ensure a coordinated and comprehensive approach to support all aspects of community recovery from this devastating fire for our local area. The committee will initially meet for 3 months with a review as to the ongoing form and structure of the recovery activities to be assessed at that time to make sure they remain contemporary and reflective of the community's needs. And I do want to thank all the representatives who participated in our first meeting of the committee last week, and we look forward to their ongoing participation and representation as well. Administrator Benedica, can I now please move to your presentation tonight?
My report tonight will focus on 3 items: the Green Route announcement for Yarrawonga-Murwala Bridge, Morishah Community Leadership Program, and a briefing that we held with Goulburn Murray Water. On Friday last week, we were incredibly pleased to receive the news that the Green Route has been formally confirmed by Victoria as the preferred alignment for the new Yarrawonga-Murwala Bridge. This now aligns with the stated positions of Morishah Council, Federation Council, and the New South Wales State Government. The announcement followed detailed technical, environmental, and community assessment by the Victorian Government. We'd like to congratulate the many community voices who continually pressed for this outcome. This is part of the process. The Green Route is located east of the existing bridge and will improve traffic flow and safety, reduce heavy vehicle movements through the Yarrawonga town centre, and enhance pedestrian amenity. We also understand that environmental and cultural heritage considerations were central to the decision. This is an ongoing advocacy project. Investment by both state governments and the federal government in planning, design, and eventual construction are essential. The new Yarrawonga-Murwala Bridge project represents a significant regional infrastructure investment supporting long-term economic growth and cross-border connectivity. The announcement is welcomed, and as I said before, much more advocacy and continual attention is required. We're really pleased to be delivering again the Morishah Community Leadership Program, and it's offered once this year as a free initiative to build leadership capacity, confidence, and community connection. Participants develop practical skills in public speaking, governance, community engagement, and leadership in emergency or crisis situations, while also building networks with other locals and local mentors. We're looking forward to applications which close on Monday, 16th of March, and there are limited places available. We really encourage those applications. We've already seen the impact from the previous programs we've run and are feeling the benefit from the participants who've contributed their skills and commitment to community projects. Finally, I'll talk about our Goulburn Murray Water relationships. On the 18th of February 2026, Chair Administrator Emerson and I, with several senior council representatives, met with representatives from Goulburn Murray Water, which is Australia's largest rural water corporation. GMW is responsible for storing and delivering untreated water across northern Victoria. In Moira Shire alone, GMW manages extensive irrigation and drainage infrastructure, supporting a strong agricultural base. This includes 800 kilometres of channels, 55 kilometres of pipeline, 520 kilometres of drainage, and over 2,500 delivery share entitlements. We discussed very many challenges, including climate change impact, Murray-Darling Basin Plan water recovery, and land use pressures. But we identified opportunities for collaboration as well, and they were in drought response planning, economic development, and future service strategies. This was a very positive meeting with good discussions about the future and our collaboration in working together for the best outcomes for our community.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. Can we now move to item 8 on tonight's agenda, and that is officer reports for determination. The first report tonight is C01925, power line clearance of trees in declared areas. And I invite our Director of Infrastructure, Rachel Gadd, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Administrator Emerson. This report seeks Council's approval to award what is a critical compliance contract that directly protects community safety and ensures statutory obligations under the state electricity safety regulations are met. Awarding this contract will enable the delivery of tree maintenance underneath electrical line for the clearance program for the next 3 years, with an option to extend for another 2 years. These works aim to protect electricity supply, mitigate and bushfire risks. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms Gadd. I'm happy to move that Council number 1 award the schedule of rates contract C019/25 power line clearance of trees in declared areas to Arborescence Proprietary Limited for an initial term of 3 years commencing 1 April 2026 with an option to extend in 2 single periods of 1 year for a maximum contract period of 5 years. Secondly, note that the anticipated expenditure against this contract for the full term is approximately $500,000. Number 3, note that payments will be made in accordance with the schedule of rates and that final expenditure will be defined by operational needs and approved budgets. Number 4, note that the schedule of rates shall remain fixed for the first term and will be subject to rise and fall based on the calculation defined in the conditions of contract for subsequent terms. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. As it has been indicated by Ms Gadd, this is a really important compliance procurement that we have before us here tonight. Maintaining the clearance of trees around in declared areas around power lines is a very important risk management and community safety responsibility that Council maintains and manages. And this contract will enable us to acquit our responsibilities from the management of clearance for vegetation in declared areas. And I'm very pleased to see that we are awarding this contract to the submitter, who represents best value for money over this projected period. Do you wish to speak as the seconder? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. The next item tonight is item 8.2, and that is the draft Bundalong Structure Plan. And I would invite our Acting Director of Sustainable Development, Molly O'Connor, to present this item.
Thank you, Chair Administrator. I'm pleased to present item 8.2 this evening, seeking Council's endorsement of the draft Bundalong Structure Plan and the supporting background report for the purposes of community consultation. Bundalong represents one of our significant riverside townships, and this structure plan provides strategic direction for its growth and development over the next 15 to 20 years. Officers undertook preliminary community consultation in June and July of 2025, which yielded 151 responses. The feedback was consistent. The community places a high value on the township's natural amenity, village character, and riverside setting. Concerns were raised regarding infrastructure capacity, particularly stormwater drainage, power supply, and road safety, and there was a clear expectation that future development must respect and preserve the township's established character. A prominent finding of the background report is that sufficient vacant land and underutilised land exists within the current township boundary to accommodate projected growth over the planned horizon. Accordingly, the structure plan does not propose a boundary expansion. Rather, it focuses on guiding appropriate development within the existing township footprint whilst protecting environmental and character values. The vision articulated in the draft plan is for Bundalong to remain a tranquil riverside township where development is carefully managed to protect unique character and natural environment, with enhanced infrastructure, improved connectivity, and responsible growth. Subject to Council's endorsement this evening, officers will undertake a formal community engagement for a minimum of 6 weeks in accordance with Council's community engagement policy, including public information sessions and comprehensive consultation activities. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms O'Connor. Is there a motion for this item tonight?
Yes, Chair. I'll move that Council endorse the draft Bundalong Structure Plan and the supporting Bundalong Structure Plan background report as included in attachments 1 and 2 for the purposes of community engagement for a minimum period of 6 weeks in accordance with Council's community engagement policy.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
I certainly do. This is representing a significant piece of work with really good community input to that work. I attended some of those consultations in the early days, and I'm very pleased to see those community views well represented here in the report. The report itself, the draft plan covers housing, land use in the local economy, landscape in the environment, the heritage in the urban form, transport and movement. And there are a number of things in here that are great recommendations for the future. The idea of a structure plan like this is long-term. It is a long-term vision of what things could be and how the planning over the next 25 years might evolve. But in there are some very good ideas. And those ideas, once endorsed, if endorsed by the community, will help us then look for future grants and go on with the development that could occur in Bundalong. In the document itself, on page 27 of the council meeting pack, it actually has an outline of the consultation process. The fact that there was community consultation last year, the draft plan was developed between November and January. It's now coming to us out to community consultation, finishes in April, and we hope to see it back with that community consultation being considered as part of our council meeting in mid-year.
Thank you, Administrator Benedicta. Just to add a seconder of the motion tonight, this is a really important blueprint for the future development of Bundalong Township. Bundalong is a very important settlement for us here in the Moira Shire, and it's really important that we have a blueprint that articulates the future development of Bundalong whilst respecting those elements and characteristics which are of most importance to the community. We've already had some very good feedback and contribution to develop the draft structure plan and particularly the background report, and we now look forward to this next round of community consultation where we want to hear again the community's views on this draft plan to enable us to finalise a final plan for the future development of Bundalong. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.3 on the agenda this evening is the draft road closure policy. Can I again invite our Director of Infrastructure, Rachel Gadd, to present this item?
Thank you, Chair Administrator Emerson. This reviewed policy brings clarity to a process that directly impacts access to properties. Adopting this policy will provide guidance to staff and clear expectations for residents around the permanent road closure applications process. It provides transparent assessment criteria covering access, environmental values and community support, which will streamline decision-making in the application process. It also clearly articulates Council's discretion on the approval of road closures with a policy position of generally not supporting applications where public access is required. The policy places emphasis on environmental assessment and protection of native vegetation and retains the flexibility to consider future infrastructure needs in the assessment of applications, ensuring that roads are not disposed of where they may serve strategic purposes in the future. The recommendation is as presented.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ms Gadd. I'm happy to move that Council Number 1 note that there was no feedback received on the draft road closure policy following community engagement conducted in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. And secondly, adopt the draft road closure policy as included in attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Bernardika. The protection of roads for their gazetted purposes is a really important task that Council has as one of its responsibilities. And when we are dealing with requests to potentially close and then sell roads, it is important that we have a well-articulated policy that sets out the good governance and transparency of the process to be followed. This policy does achieve that, and it is a really important policy that we have so that any person with an interest in a request to either close and or sell a road is very clear on the Council's policy position. This is a demonstration of good governance, and it does set out a very transparent process for how we would undertake any such process. And I want to thank the staff for the work they've done in updating and reviewing our policy. And I do note that the draft, when we put it out for community feedback, has not attracted any feedback, and we're now in a position to adopt this as our final policy. Do you wish to speak as the seconder of this motion?
Very briefly, I think the purpose of all policies is to make sure that we've got really consistent and equitable and fair approach. I think the transparency with which this was developed and then taken out for community consultation, even though we've not received responses, it's been out there, it's had its public airing. So now we have clear guidance on the circumstances in which Council can resolve to discontinue a road. Thank you.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, the motion is carried. Item 8.4 is our draft complaint handling policy, and I would invite our Director of Corporate Performance, Mr. Peter Canizzaro, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Administrator Emerson, and through you, I'm here to present the report titled Complaint Handling Policy. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's endorsement of a draft complaint handling policy to proceed to community consultation for a minimum period of 21 days. Section 107 of the Local Government Act 2020 requires all councils to have a complaint policy that specifies how complaints are handled. Our current policy was last reviewed in 2021. A review has found that while the policy content remains current, amendments have been made to improve accessibility and understanding for our community. The revised policy maintains compliance with the Local Government Act 2020 and aligns with the Victorian Ombudsman best practice guidance. Also, the language and structural improvements have been made to make the policy easier for the community to understand and follow, with content streamlined to separate policy from procedural elements. The next steps, if endorsed, Chair, the policy will then proceed to community consultation. Following consultation, the policy will return to Council for final adoption, understanding all of the feedback and incorporating feedback, and then supporting online tools and procedures will be implemented. So thank you, Chair. The recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Canizzaro. Is there a mover for this matter tonight?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to move that Council, number 1, endorse the draft complaint handling policy shown in attachment 1 for community consultation purposes. 2, authorise officers to undertake community consultation for a minimum period of 21 days in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. Number 3, note that following community consultation, a further report will be presented to Council with the final policy and consultation outcomes for adoption. And number 4, note that the existing Council adopted complaint handling procedure will be revoked and redeveloped as a Chief Executive Officer endorsed operational procedure upon adoption of the final complaint handling policy.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I think that it was a really good process to go through, and that again, as we said with the last policy endorsement, this is about good governance, transparency and clarity. And in this particular one, it was not just clarity about the process, what steps people need to take and when things get elevated in the complaint process, but it was also clearing up the language so it was much easier to understand and much easier to put in place. We need to be responsible and manage things well, and this is part of that management. This will go out for consultation. We really would like feedback before we endorse it as a policy.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.5 on tonight's agenda is the quarterly budget review for December 2025. Again, can I invite Mr. Cannizzaro to present this item?
Thank you, Chair Administrator, and through you. The purpose of this report is to fulfil Council's obligations under Section 97 of the Local Government Act 2020 by providing a quarterly update on budget performance for the second quarter of the 25-26 financial year. By way of background, Council's December 2025 quarterly budget review demonstrates continued strong financial management and improved financial performance. I'm pleased to report that Council's underlying result has significantly improved, moving from a forecast underlying deficit of $176,000 in the September 25 quarterly forecast to an underlying surplus of $374,000 in this December 2025 forecast. This represents a positive movement of $550,000. Consistent with Section 97, subsection 3 of the Local Government Act 2020, the Chief Executive Officer has assessed that a revised budget is not required for the financial year 25-26. This assessment is based on no variations to rates or charges being necessary, no additional borrowings required beyond those approved in the 25-26 annual budget, and that all budget variations fall within acceptable materiality thresholds or are as a result of fully externally funded projects. Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. I'm happy to move that Council Number 1 receive and note the quarterly budget review, December 2025 report, and endorse the December 2025 quarterly budget forecast contained therein, prepared in accordance with Section 92 of the Local Government Act 2020. Number 2, note the Chief Executive Officer statement that a revised budget is not required for the financial year 25-26 in accordance with Section 97, subsection 3 of the Local Government Act 2020. And number 3, approve the forecast variations as detailed in quarterly budget review, December 2025. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. This report is relatively self-explanatory, but again, it is an important part of our good governance where we have the opportunity to consider a quarterly budget review throughout the financial year. It is pleasing to see that our expected forecast surplus position has shifted positively to the tune of about $500,000, now projecting a surplus of some $374,000. I do understand that can shift during the year, but it is a positive trend at this point in the year. There are a number of known adjustments to our capital works program, which again is quite normal for this time of year, and very pleased to see progress being made on a number of those capital items, and also understand that a number of those will need to be brought forward into the next financial year as well. Our performance indicators remain to be healthy, and that is also an important part of our transparency, that we're reporting the progress on our financial indicators on a quarterly basis as well. I do want to thank the Mr. Cannizzaro and the finance team for their ongoing work and their diligence in managing our financial position, and we look forward to progressing towards the end of the financial year in a suitably healthy position as well. Administrator Benedica, do you wish to speak as seconder of the motion?
I also wish to thank the officers for this particular report and the briefings that we've been given as the report has been developed. It is quite detailed. We know exactly where the money is moving from and where it's moving to. We've got that clear oversight of why there's a difference in our budget forecasts and our budget actuals, and it is tracking well. So it's always tracking within the bounds that we've set as council. So it's been a very good report and a very good process to go through. Thank you.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.6 is the review of delegations to members of the council staff. Mr. Cannizzaro, can I again invite you to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair Administrator, and through you. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's adoption of the S6 Instrument of Delegation to members of Council staff, prepared in accordance with Section 11 and Section 11 subsection 7 of the Local Government Act 2020. By way of background, Council is required under Section 11 subsection 7 of the Act to review its delegations within 12 months of a general election. Plus, these instruments are updated regularly to ensure they include the latest legislative changes. Council subscribes to the MADIX Delegations and Authorisations Advisory Service, and these instruments have been reviewed based on their most recent advice and in consultation with staff. The delegations authorise staff to make timely day-to-day decisions, but are necessary to provide responsive and high-quality services to the community. The key points of the report are: one, the updated delegations include legislative changes and organisational updates since the delegations were adopted in November 2025. Recent amendments to the Planning Environment Act 1987 have introduced new council powers relating to preparing planning scheme amendments, which now generally require ministerial authorisation. And a number of powers have been repealed and replaced by the new legislative framework, streamlining the delegation process. The recommendations before you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. Is there a motion for this item?
I'd like to move the recommendation as it is printed in our agenda papers.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to this item?
Just very briefly, you've explained, Mr. Cannizzaro, the complex legal environment in which we operate, where things are changing all the time. This documentation is needed in order to keep up with that. I'm very pleased that we get external legal advice, and that helps us maintain good governance. So I would that helps me move the motion.
And I'm don't wish to speak as a seconder of the motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 8.7, CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee. Mr. Cannizzaro, could I invite you to also introduce this item?
And Chair, I'll declare a conflict and leave the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll just wait for the CEO to leave the meeting. Okay, Mr. Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Chair Administrator, and through you. The purpose of this report is to present recommendations from the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee meeting held on the 18th of November 2025 regarding the Chief Executive Officer's performance review and future performance planning arrangements. By way of background, the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee is established under Section 45, subsection 2 of the Local Government Act 2020, and is responsible for assisting Council in CEO performance management matters, including quarterly and annual monitoring and review of CEO performance against key performance indicators. The committee completed its assessment of the CEO's performance for the third quarter and has identified an opportunity to better align the CEO's performance planning cycle with Council's financial year. The key points of the report are as follows. One, the CEO has demonstrated significant and exemplary progress in meeting performance objectives for the third quarter. The committee recommends aligning the CEO's performance plan with the Council's financial year rather than the anniversary date of commencement. And point three, a bridging performance plan covering 1 January through to 30 June 2026 has been developed to facilitate this realignment and ensure continuity in performance management. Thank you, Chair. The recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. I'm happy to move the Council adopt the CEO Performance Bridging Plan for 1 January to 30 June 2026 as contained in attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. As Mr. Cannizzaro has indicated, the matter before us tonight provides what we're calling a bridging plan, which simply will align the CEO's performance plan away from what was largely an annual plan based on the calendar through to financial year. And so this bridging plan spans a 6-month period to enable us then to get into the cycle of an annual plan that's aligned around our financial year. Do you wish to speak as the seconder of the motion?
Very briefly, one of the most important roles that we have as administrators is to engage the CEO and to work with the CEO and make sure that performance indicators are set and managed. This bridging plan gives me confidence that we've got the ability, the guide rails in which to have those discussions. So thank you.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Could we please invite the CEO to come back into the meeting? Item 8.8 on tonight's agenda is the draft water allocation and trading policy. And can I again invite our Acting Director of Sustainable Development, Molly O'Connor, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair Administrator. I am pleased to present this report this evening seeking Council's adoption of the water allocation and trading policy following completion of the community consultation process. Council owns approximately 30 allocation bank accounts holding water allocations across 3 service water zones and 2 bores within our irrigation district. In years of 100% allocation, this provides Council with access to 997 megalitres of raw water per season. This raw water is critical infrastructure. It supplies irrigation needs for our parks and gardens, recreation reserves, showgrounds, sporting clubs, schools and community facilities across the municipality. The health and amenity of these value community assets depends directly on reliable access to this water. Council has not previously had a formal policy to guide water allocation decision-making or the recovery of water-related charges. This gap became apparent following the approach from the Newmerka Golf and Bowls Club regarding their water allocation agreement. Council endorsed the draft policy for consultation in January 2025. The consultation was deferred to address water supply challenges at Victoria Park in Yarrawonga, which were subsequently resolved through the Integrated Water Management Plan for this site adopted by Council in June 2025. Community engagement was then conducted from October to November 2025 in accordance with Council's community engagement policy. We received 7 submissions from water users. The feedback was constructive and has informed refinements to the final policy, particularly regarding processes for temporary water transfers between users and clarification of dry year management provisions. The policy now establishes 7 key principles to guide Council's management of its raw water assets, including equitable allocation, responsible management, full cost recovery, and promotion of efficient and effective irrigation practices. It provides a transparent framework for allocation decisions and enables Council to formalise water use agreements with all users, typically for 4-year periods. The adoption of this policy will ensure that Council manages its water entitlements transparently, equitably, and in a manner that meets community needs, whilst recovering approximately $60,000 in annual water-related charges from users in a consistent and fair manner. Thank you. The recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. I'm happy to move that Council number 1 note the feedback received on the draft water allocation and trading policy following community engagement conducted in accordance with Council's community engagement policy, and secondly, adopt the water allocation and trading policy as included in attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. As Ms. O'Connor has articulated, this is a really important policy, new policy for the Council. Council is the holder of some 30 allocation accounts of raw water, which is an incredibly valuable resource for a range of community users, community organisations, and the Council itself. It is incumbent on us from a good governance perspective that we have a very clear policy as to how we will manage our allocations, how we will manage our transfers, and importantly, how we will allocate fair and equitable charging of this important resource. We do understand that the allocation of raw water is an incredibly important aspect of community and community life, and it's important that we do it in a fair, transparent and equitable way. And this policy for the first time enables us to do that in a very transparent way. Again, I really do want to thank the Sustainable Development team for the work they've done in developing this policy. They literally have developed this from a blank page. There's been very little guidance that we've been able to seek from other councils as to how they manage their allocation accounts for raw water, and I'm very, very happy with the end product, and the fact that we had 7 very constructive pieces of feedback from the community says that we largely, I think, are on the right track with this policy. So if Ms O'Connor, you can take back to your team a big congratulations for their work in developing up this draft policy. Administrator Benedico, do you wish to speak as the seconder of the motion?
Thank you. Water is something that water entitlements in particular in this Shire really matter. And any allocation of water, any use of water, any transfer of water needs to be really carefully managed. Ms O'Connor, you mentioned that in times of full allocation, there is a certain amount of water available. We often have years of low allocation where people are wanting to trade it between themselves in order to get the best use for that water. The insertion of key principles into this policy was particularly important for me, and I really value that that's actually sitting there so we all know what this is about, what we're trying to achieve together, and that's effective, efficient use of water, transparently transferred and managed really well. Thank you.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.1 on this evening's agenda is the Fairley Leadership Sponsorship for 2026, and I would invite our Director of Community, Mr Scott Williams, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is for Council to note that Lachlan Andrew has been nominated as Council's sponsored participant for the 2026 Fairley Leadership Program. The Fairley Leadership Program, delivered by Goulburn Murray Community Leadership, provides participants with the opportunity to strengthen their leadership capability, develop a deeper understanding of regional issues, and contribute to positive change across our region. Each year we partner with GMCL in this really great and long-standing program. We provide financial sponsorship to enable an individual from our Shire to participate. We received 6 high-quality applications, which is a fantastic sign, but we're proud to nominate Lachlan Andrew as a recommended sponsor participant for this year. Lachlan lives and works in the Shire, Numurkah Secondary College. He maintains strong connections with local agriculture and hospitality sectors. He's an active member of the Numurkah Show Committee, and he's a graduate of our very own Moira Community Leadership Program. Lachlan's demonstrated commitment to community involvement and leadership development positions him well to represent our Shire through this program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Williams. Is there a motion for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move that Council note that Lachlan Andrew has been nominated as Council's sponsored participant in the 2026 Fairley Leadership Program.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
It might be noted by now that I'm a passionate supporter of good community leadership development. This is the second time that I've been aware of that we've actually had a graduate of our own Moira Shire Community Leadership Program now being nominated to go into the much broader regional program, the Fairley Community Leadership Program. We know that our Shire benefits amazingly from the skills and talents of people who develop their leadership skills and then deliver it back into the community. I really strongly support this noting that Lachlan is successful.
Thank you, Administrator Benedico. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.2 is the biannual Audit and Risk Committee report for July to December 2025. Mr Canizzaro, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair, Administrator, and through you. The purpose of this report is for Council to receive and note the biannual Audit and Risk Report for the period July through to December 2025, prepared by the Audit and Risk Committee as required under Section 54, subsection 5 of the Local Government Act 2020. By way of background, the Audit and Risk Committee supports Council by providing independent oversight of financial and performance reporting, risk management, fraud prevention, internal controls, and compliance with policies and legislative requirements. The Local Government Act 2020 requires the Committee to prepare a biannual report detailing its activities, findings and recommendations, and to provide this to the Chief Executive Officer for tabling at Council. The full report has been included as Attachment 1. The recommendations are before you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. I'm happy to move that Council receive and note the biannual Audit and Risk Committee report for the period July to December 2025, prepared in accordance with Section 54 of the Local Government Act 2020 and as presented in Attachment 1. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
It is important that we regularly receive a report from the Audit and Risk Committee in relation to their activities over the previous 6-month period. It is a requirement of the Local Government Act, but it is also a measure of very good governance that we are indeed very fortunate to have a highly effective and well-functioning Audit and Risk Committee. And when you see the Chair's biannual report of the level of and extent of activity that the committee has turned its mind to over the last 6 months, we can clearly see the level of value being added to Council's operations through the Audit and Risk Committee. Of course, we have 5 independent members on the Audit and Risk Committee, and they collectively are providing a really valuable level of oversight and rigour to the level of operations across Council. Do you wish to speak as seconder of the motion?
Yes, to really back up that second point the last point that you made, we are very well served by our independent members of the Risk and Audit Committee. Both Chair, Administrator and I sit as members of that committee, but what we really value is that external oversight, the independence of those members and their ability to bring to us things that we've not thought of, new ways of testing what we're doing here, and a real rigour, as mentioned by the Chair. So I'm very, very happy to second this motion.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 9.3 is the biannual report to the Minister for Local Government. Again, Mr. Cannizzaro, could you introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair, Administrator, and through you. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider and note the biannual report to the Minister for Local Government, with the objective being to provide the biannual report to the Minister for Local Government. The biannual report, which is presented in Attachment 1 of this Council report, provides a progress update on Moira Shire Council's achievements and activities for the period 1 July through to 31st December 2025. Throughout the 6-month reporting period, the biannual report showcases key achievements across infrastructure delivery, economic development, community engagement, financial sustainability, leadership development, workplace culture and staff engagement, to name a few, demonstrating Council's commitment to delivering tangible outcomes for the community. The biannual report also provides an update on the continued progress made towards achieving the recommendations contained in the Commission of Inquiry into Moira Shire Council, with 8 of 9 Commission recommendations now completed, and the final recommendation about a local representation review is in progress. The recommendations are before you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. Is there a motion for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move that Council note the biannual report to the Minister for Local Government for the period 1st of July to 31st of December 2025, as presented in Attachment 1.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
It's always amazing to look back on those 6 months and realise what has actually been achieved, and how we can be very proud of the report that we're putting to the Minister. As mentioned by Mr. Cannizzaro, 8 of our 9 recommendations from the Commission of Inquiry have been completed, and we have the final one in progress. So it's an exceptional movement forward. It's also a really good record of the work that goes on. So to get each of these achievements, there's a lot of work that goes on before them, and then we're already in train for the rest of the work that we'll see for our period of time. So I'd like to commend this report and back up my motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. Just very quickly, as seconder of the motion, also I'd like to just reflect on the importance of this biannual report to the Minister. It is important that we are able to account for the level of activity and the achievements which have been made by the panel of administrators, and we do have a commitment to provide a report to the Minister on a 6-monthly basis, and really pleased to see the level of activity that's been captured in this report, and now off to the Minister as part of us acquitting that requirement. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, the motion is carried. Item 9.4 is the Moira Shire Council Victorian Government priorities for the 2026 election. And I would invite our Director of Community, Mr Scott Williams, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks Council's endorsement of the Moira Shire Council Victorian Government Priorities document, which outlines Council's key advocacy asks in the lead up to the 2026 Victorian Government election. The document presents 6 strategic investment priorities aimed at addressing critical infrastructure gaps, improving community safety, strengthening regional connectivity, and supporting sustainable population and economic growth. Developed in alignment with the Council Plan and the Community Vision, the projects identified are investment ready and designed to leverage state partnerships to deliver long-term economic, social and community benefit. Endorsement of the document will enable coordinated strategic advocacy to secure our Victorian Government commitments, positioning Moira Shire to respond proactively to growth pressures and community expectations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Williams. I'm happy to move that Council endorse the Moira Shire Council Victorian Government Priorities document as included in Attachment 1, which includes the key asks of Government for which commitments are being sought in the lead up to the 2026 Victorian Government election. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. Just very quickly, because the document itself is relatively self-explanatory, but it is important that Council has a view on behalf of the community of what its requests for whoever is the state government post the November election, whoever that might be. And it has been a difficult exercise to narrow this down to 6 key priorities. There are many, many other priorities that will continue to be pursued in various forums and in other means. But it is important that we have a very clear statement with and for the community of what our top 6 priorities are. These haven't been developed in isolation. They've been developed because they have been reflected in our council plan, and they have been reflected in our community vision, which was developed by our panel, our community panel, which came together last year to shape up our 20-year vision statement on behalf of the community. So these priorities are already known to us. They are known to the community. They are priorities in the community, and we look forward to being able to advocate for these outcomes for our community as part of the forthcoming state election process. Administrator Benedica, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to state that this document is particularly important. It reflects what we've heard from the community. It reflects, as Chair Administrator has said, the community vision and the direction, as well as the council plan. But it means we're really clear about exactly what we're asking for and what our expectations are, what our part might be in a project, and how those projects can get developed and delivered. We've also made these very real and very practical. This is not pie in the sky. This is stuff that we're doing for the community and with the community.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, the motion is carried. Item 9.5 is Community Strengthening Grants Guidelines Update. Mr Scott Williams, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks Council's endorsement of the updated draft Community Strengthening Grants Guidelines to ensure the program continues to effectively support projects and initiatives that align with Council's strategic priorities. The guidelines have been refined to provide greater clarity for applicants and strengthen alignment with the Council Plan and the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. The proposed updates focus on improving accessibility, strengthening eligibility criteria, and providing clearer assessment guidance to support transparent and consistent decision-making. Endorsement of the revised guidelines will enable the 2025-26 program to operate more effectively, ensuring available funding is directed towards initiatives that deliver measurable community benefits and contribute to a healthy, connected and inclusive community across the Shire. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Williams. Is there a motion for this item?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to move that Council endorse the updated Community Strengthening Grants Guidelines as included in Attachment 1.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
Yes, I'm very keen that the community members know exactly how they can access government grant funds from local government and how we're responsible for getting that out to them. I think the inclusion of examples in this particular guidelines really helps, and those examples are aligned with the intent of the council vision and the community vision and the council plan. That's really important. But more importantly is I'd like to see them being used. I really want to see community groups picking these up, putting in an application, either quick response or major grants, and making sure that this money is effectively spent in the service of community.
With that, I will put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Mr CEO, are there any notices of motion for tonight's agenda?
No, Chair, and there's no matters for items 11, 12 or 13 either.
Thank you, Mr CEO. That takes us to item 14 on tonight's agenda, and that is public question time. I understand, Mr CEO, we have one question from Janine Champion, who's not with us tonight, so I might ask you to read the question, Mr CEO, and then provide a response.
Thank you, Chair. Before I do, we received two questions. One question was not accepted under the governance rules, and I just want to clarify for transparency, it was in relation to a property in Nathalia. There are current proceedings in relation to that property, so it's not appropriate to accept or respond to that question in the council meeting. In relation to the question we received from Janine Champion, Janine, thank you for the question. There is some preamble. However, I will cut straight to the question. The question before us tonight is, what assurance will the Moira Shire Council provide to ensure that no property construction will proceed at the 30 to 36 Tunnock Road Numurkah development site before at least stage 1 and stage 2 of the Numurkah flood mitigation project is fully completed?
Do you want to proceed to provide a response, Mr CEO?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Janine, for the question. The question relates to the development at 30 to 36 Tunnock Road, Numurkah. I can confirm that all appropriate planning requirements have been met and there is an approved planning permit for 30 to 36 Tunnock Road, Numurkah. As part of the rigorous approval process, a comprehensive flood impact assessment was undertaken. This report demonstrated that in the event of a 1% annual exceedance probability, an AEP flood, which is effectively a 1 in 100 year flood event, and without the southern levee bank in place, which is stage 2 of the Numurkah flood levee project, the proposed development would cause no additional flooding impacts on surrounding properties. Given that the property owner has obtained the necessary planning permission through the proper channels and all required assessments have been satisfactorily completed, there are no planning grounds to prevent the development from proceeding in accordance with the approved planning permit. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you again, Janine, for your question tonight. There being no further business on tonight's agenda, that does take us to the close of tonight's meeting. Can I again thank the members of the gallery who have joined us here in Nathalia, and to those members of the community who have joined us online as well. We appreciate you joining our meeting tonight. There being no further business on tonight's agenda, I will now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.